Hello there. If you are receiving this video from me, it is probably your second dosage of information in our plan point scale system, in which I'm going to show you how to do positional plan point exercise, which will be our means for getting used to transitioning from just playing our diatonic fingerings 1 through 7 in C major to every other key on the fretboard, just using visual systems and visual imprints of fingerings. And then we're going to look at how our 5 common C major or A minor pentatonic scales overlap our 7 major scales. When most people learn the 5 pentatonics, they learn them as the A minor pentatonic. As we know, A minor and C major are the same key. They are both relative major, relative minor to each other. They are relative major and relative minor to each other. They contain the same notes. All of the fingerings that we are about to work on in our home base key of C major / A minor work in the following contexts: a song in C major, a song in A minor, or chiefly those two contexts. Alright, so what I'm going to be doing is positional plan point. You're going to hang out at one fret or one area, just thinking about the visual hand movement. Think about and play all 7 fingerings right there. That's going to mean that by definition you're switching between keys. Start 1 through 7, and when that gets easy, do what we did when we were learning the fingerings initially, which is start to randomize the order that you play them in. Here's how this is going to look. Sorry if my mic is not optimal for this. Having a pick is definitely optimal. Okay, so I'm going to be playing all 7 fingerings around the 2nd fret. So it's going to start out with me going, I'm playing fingering 1. And there the answer is obviously C major. It's the key that we learned to play this fingering in. So next, instead of transitioning up the fretboard to fingering 2, I'm going to play it right here, and so on. I'm going to go through all 7 fingerings now. Alright, fingering 2. That's the B flat major scale, B flat. Now number 3. That's the A major scale. And if you look at which sharps and flats we're hitting, this is actually correct. Next we're playing fingering 4. The G major scale. That's the first one that most people learned. There we are. Next we're playing fingering number 6, and this one's a little tricky as it involves open position. And the answer is E, just like when we played it at the 10th fret. The answer was C. Cool. So that's the only one where we're not just pointing to a bass note on one of these 2 strings. Lastly, number 7, we learned at the 12th fret. And that would be the D major scale. So you're going to want to pick one fret and play all 7 of those. Notice which ones you tend to slip up on and focus on those. You don't have to play fingering 1 every time. If you're getting that right every single time, chances are it's the one you'll know best because it's the one you're starting with. You might even only play the fingerings you have a hard time with as your primary practice. And reminder once again, start out by doing them in sequence, and then as soon as that gets easy, switch to doing some kind of randomized order, including maybe eliminating some of the ones that have become easy at this point. Alright, so another concept we may have thrown in at this point is that of playing an open position. Playing here at what we would call, first fret position, meaning open first, second, third, and fourth fret. That's the only part of the fretboard where we have to learn chord shapes as autonomous concepts rather than just using bar chords. And similarly, it's the part of the fretboard where we have to learn each major scale as an autonomous concept. So in every key, the fingering that would start at the 12th fret, where the instrument repeats, also starts at the first fret. So we can think of fingering 7 in C major as occurring at the 12th fret or open position. So instead of the hand movement there, we get and that's going to greatly inform your major scale playing when you're using chord shapes. So, G would be number 3, and you're going to use a 4-finger position like this, not move to this position. So this will take a little bit of visual planning, but there's the concept, and you can certainly prioritize this lower than the other two things we're doing. Now I'm going to just play through the minor overlaps, and you might want to, the pentatonic overlaps, A minor, C major, pentatonic, which is taking some of the more dissonant tones out of there. And I'm just going to play the major scale in that area and then show you how to play the pentatonic fingering. In this instance, we are no longer trying to be efficient, as we're very often bending or sliding on our ring finger note in these pentatonic fingerings, and we are very infrequently using our pinky in any context. And the only one that's going to be an abbreviation is pentatonic number 2, where I'll show you what the notes are on the low strings, but you're really going to find that people use just the high 3 strings. Right, so I'm just going to go up the fretboard starting at fingering 1, but let's skip ahead to pentatonic number 1, our blues box 1, that occurs right on top of our C major scale fingering number 3. So here's the A minor / C major pentatonic fingerings. So we've got pentatonic 1 on top of diatonic number 3. So I can do this, or I can do this. And these overlaps will be the same in every key. So one thing you can do to solidify after you've gone through these 5 positions in C is go up the scale pentatonic and down the scale diatonic, or vice versa, just really solidifying I can do this or I can do that. I have the following 2 options. So now I'm just going to start at pentatonic fingering 5 of 5, and we would be remiss not to call pentatonic 1 pentatonic 1. It's almost disappointing how often people use it. So starting out now at around where our fingering number 1 / number 2 is, we've got pentatonic 5 of 5 total. Then there is no fingering on top of on top of diatonic 2. Now we're going to arrive at pentatonic 2, which to my mind is just a fragment on the high strings that goes. frets. If you want to play all the notes, but when we're playing these pentatonic fingerings, again, it's not our goal to be efficient, so we're going to end up using strong fingers up in the top of the scale so that we can bend and slide and so forth. Great. So I'm just going to continue up the fretboard with less discussion, aside from to say pentatonic number 3, the one we're about to look at, overlaps major scale diatonic 6, and then pentatonic 4 overlaps diatonic 7. So or one reach note here, pretty often in pentatonic 3 you're going to see people omitting that one reach note. Then the entire fingering becomes very easy to navigate. But if we want to throw it in there, it's our index reach position. Lastly, we've got pentatonic 4 on top of major scale number 7, which we can also think of as our 5th string or A string box, as it's a really good fingering to center in on for, instead of on the 6th string, on the 5th string. And this is the one that would also start with open. If you wanted to play it in open position, it would go 0, 3, 0, 3, etc. Here it is. So, major scale. Excuse me. And on top of that, we've got on the 2nd string, sometimes we're actually going to use a middle finger starting note here. We're going to learn both options. And you could continue up the fretboard if you were on an electric guitar, including, next up the fretboard would be pentatonic 5, which is our last one we're going to learn. At the, just reviewing, it was 3-5, 3-5, 2-5, 2-5, 3-5, 3-5. That's the one that overlapped major scale number 1. Again, these are all A minor pentatonics and C major pentatonics, and these are all C major / A minor diatonic fingerings. Great, there's that, and let me know if you have any questions. If there are any confusing bits, it's probably the sticking point most commonly is not having adequately memorized the fingerings in C major, so you can always refer back to home base key. I may have also brought up the concept of learning a secondary key, and I probably suggested G major. At some point you're going to want to play in all 12 keys, but what we're doing here is picking one other key to focus on that has our fingerings 1 through 7 in drastically different parts of the fretboard. Instead of fingering 1 being right here where it is in C, it's up here with our middle finger on G at the 10th fret right there. And 2 and 3, 4, 5, etc. So you'll be using this G and that G to figure out where you're at. It'll go 4, 5, 6, and so on. And you can always refer back to see if you're confused. Again, the reason we're doing this is because learning one other key well, you've just practiced how to play in G, which is a very common key, but this should make it easier to picture a key like F or A major, whereas playing in C major, it's relatively easy to convert it to maybe D major, which is just 2 frets up for everything, 1 whole step up for everything. So there you have it. those are our plan point system for diatonic fingerings, every key, with suggestion that you could look at G major as the key you're second most familiar with other than C major, or you can totally ignore that step. And our pentatonic overlays, which for now we're just learning in A minor / C major, but if you want to make note of where you were hitting A and C and start moving them around to other keys, go for it. In your G major secondary key, it's going to be overlapped by the E minor pentatonics, which are very, very common rock scales. For instance, 0302, 0202, 0303, and so on up the fretboard. But all of these other things other than plan point and learning your pentatonic fingerings are optional. Enjoy!